Hello, my name is Opal Singleton. I am the president and CEO of Million Kids, Million, Million Kids. Not 1 million kids, not 10 million kids, simply Million Kids. We named it that about 15 years ago because there were more than 1 million kids, even 15 years ago, that were being trafficked throughout the world. But now, today, we still call it Million Kids, but we are in a fight for our lives, for our kids. And I'm going to ask you to join with me today. Get the facts, get yourself educated, and help us understand how to take this on. The problem I'm going to talk about today is sextortion. And it is all about, blackmail with a photo, with a live stream image. Maybe you're caught on one of those webcams and you forget that camera works both ways, or it could be a video. And now, quite frankly, it's deep fakes also, where people modify your image and then take photos or use it to blackmail you. But it has happened again, and our team here at Million Kids, just to give you a little background, if you don't normally listen to me, our team is called Million Kids, and that is comprised of 8 what we call ourselves seasoned professionals. We've been around forever. Some of them are retired law enforcement or retired Homeland Security. One's an active private investigator working child sex crimes. There's a whole group of us that research this information as things are changing about trafficking and online exploitation. And we share ideas. We some days just beat our head against a wall, wondering how on earth do we fix it? And we're going to ask you to join in this fight. I have been studying about sextortion now for 15 years, and it has changed dramatically. I'm in the process of writing an ebook. I hope that you will consider buying that ebook. It should come out, I would guess, 2 to 3 weeks from now. I'm hard at it, trying to sandwich it in with a very busy speaking schedule, but it is the passion of my life. It's why I get up in the morning. Because the crime of sextortion is changing and changing dramatically. So I said it happened again. What happened? Another very fine young man, of course I didn't know him, but we follow every one of these cases. This is called financial sextortion. And the crime of sextortion has changed dramatically. Just to give you in a nutshell, to bring you up to date, and then I'm going to talk about this young man by the name of Caleb Moore. He lives in El Dorado, Kansas. We can also call it El Dorado, Kansas, but I happen to be from Kansas, and I know El Dorado. It was only about 20 miles from where I was raised, and it is a fine community, and it is a fine place to raise your children. So let's talk a minute about sextortion so you get the big picture here. Okay, so sextortion started way back when kids would send a nude online. I know, it just drives me out of my mind. Why on earth would anybody send a nude online? But it's a different generation, these kids. I used to give them a bad time, when I talked in schools. You would no more go to a mall and meet somebody and go in a bathroom and take your clothes off and then say, here, you want a picture of me naked? You wouldn't do that in my day and age. It's just stupid, okay? But social media is different. It's one of those things that's a spur of the moment, and you really can't tell who you're talking to. And that is one of the challenges, is because all of our kids go online because they're used to socializing online. But in the social media world, you really, really, really cannot tell who you're talking to. But you go into it with all the hormonal emotions that you have as if you're dating the kid down the street. And it just isn't that way. And literally about 6 months ago, the statistics came out that 1 out of 6 boys and 1 out of 7 girls have sent a nude online. And if there's one thing I wish I could do before I die, is to convince young people that under no circumstances should you ever, 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 never, ever put a nude online. But I get it. We're putting kids online as they're going through puberty. They're hormonal. They're used to communicating online, and they don't have the inhibitions that we would have had when you're looking at somebody eye to eye, because social media seems like it makes it okay. I mean, I can tell you that huge number of adults do the same thing. They get caught up in webcam sex and those dating sites, and they forget how all of this works. And so what has happened over the years is that it started out with pedophiles seducing kids to get more photos. That's what it was all about. If you could get a nude photo, number one, you had control of that young person for the rest of their life because you could blackmail them. And if I could just convince kids that any nude online is a blackmail's prison. The minute you let it go, regardless of how well you think you know them, it is a blackmail's prison, because from there on out, you can't get it back. Oh, I know they got the Take It Down Act, and I applaud all that. I support that. I'm proud of Melania Trump for doing that, but that is not the end all be all of getting your nude photo back once you send it online. And so what if I could just convince kids? I'm trying to raise the money to make a 1-minute video with 5 kids in it going, never, never, never again will I send a nude online. I did. I thought he was hot. He said he loved me. She was really, really cool. And I sent that nude, and now I'm being blackmailed. They want money. They want more photos. Never, never, never again will I send that nude online. If you want to help me raise the money to make that video, let me know, okay? Because I want to do it. But what happens here is, in the past, it was mostly blackmailed by pedophiles who wanted to control you. Maybe they wanted to meet up. Maybe they wanted to have sex with you. Maybe they wanted to get more photos because they're part of a dark web ring. But the whole purpose of my writing this book that's coming out is the fact to help people understand that 3 years ago, starting in 2022, the entire world connected by internet. Okay, it had never, ever, ever happened before. But countries like Nigeria and Pakistan and Ivory Coast and third world countries can now talk to your child online. And if they are one of the 70% that sleep with their phone, they can do it when your child makes the worst decisions of their life. By the way, so do you, mom and dad, at 3:00 in the morning. Anyway, so now they're connected. And that means that we now have something called financial sextortion. And I want to scream this from the highest mountain throughout the world. And anybody who wants to help me do this, I welcome your donation and your support in getting this to happen. Our team gets up every day with the sole purpose of taking this on. What happens in financial sextortion is that there are criminal groups, let's say Nigeria or Myanmar, and they have learned that they can take their poor kids and put them online, and they'll go into video game chat rooms when your kid least expects it. Maybe, and these are kids who would never, ever do anything stupid like this, okay? I can give you, there are now somewhere over 40 to 45 of these kids in the last 24 months that have taken their own lives. And it is a travesty. I have their names, I have their files, I've investigated every one of them. When I go out and I talk to pastors and parents, they go, well, it won't be my kid because my kid's a good kid. Every one of these 40-some kids were good kids. They were superstar kids. They were homecoming kings, and they're mostly males, by the way, from the ages of 13 to 19. And yes, in some of these cases, I heard the mourning parents as they're mourning the loss of their child. Imagine losing your child to a Nigerian telemarketing scam. And they say, I never even worried about it because, this kid's already picked out their college. He's 6 foot tall. He looks like a grown man. I don't even check his phone. We quit talking about it. I just assumed that it would be okay. And not one of those parents, those grieving parents, and they'll blame themselves, but it isn't themselves. It is exactly how it is happening today. And what we have to do is get your attention, okay? Mom and dad, grandma and grandpa, pastor, school teacher, principal, counselor, whoever you are, I need you to stop and hear this. What is happening now is these third world countries will use their kids to trick our kids. And they catch them in that rare moment. Maybe they broke up with their girlfriend. Maybe they had a fight with mom and dad. Maybe they're just feeling really successful because they won a football game last night. It was the moment they least expected and most likely would never do it again. But they got caught in that weak moment because they are fine human beings. And they ended up shooting off some picture where they got trapped. I am looking at the GoFundMe page, and if you want to make a difference in this young man's life and his family's life, because they never, ever expected this tragedy, you can go to support Caleb's family in their time of loss. It is Caleb Moore under GoFundMe. There are several, by the way. You want to watch out, make sure you get the right one. And it is Caleb Moore out of El Dorado, Kansas. And his family is really hurting. They need your love. They need your support. And they need to raise the funding to help with the costs here. Somebody wrote up a deal for GoFundMe. It says, if you were able to attend a celebration of life, you would know the reason. Well, I've looked at this young man's life and I see his picture and I want to give him a hug. He just looks like the greatest young man, the kind of young man who would never, ever once realize that he would do something like this. And by the way, mom and dad, I think that's the key to this, is that these are kids that are super achievers, that have high standards that people just love. They're very popular. And I think that that's part of it, is that embarrassment, that when they get caught, the minute they send the photo, they know they've been trapped. And I honestly think that it's signs that they're immediately traumatized. They feel shame and embarrassment, and they're afraid of where this is going to go and how much they're going to have to pay out. And they don't understand the crime of financial sextortion. That is why I am doing what I am doing today. I want you to understand how this crime works and sit down and scream. No, sit quietly. And I need to calm down. We need to sit quietly and firmly with our families, okay? Because our kids, the minute they're trapped, they're afraid of losing devices. They can see themselves falling from up on a pedestal where they're greatly admired and where they're super achievers and they're just wonderful human beings. And they are ashamed and embarrassed and terrified that they will be perceived as a failure. We got to get there first. This cannot keep happening. We've lost over 40 amazing young people, okay? It says on here, if you did not, we want to inform you the evil that manipulated this child, 14-year-old young man, happy young man, just a wonderful kid, believing in that there is no other option but death. TikTok, an app that almost every middle schooler has access to, was the portal to extortion. They're talking about financial sextortion. He fell to a user posing to be a girl. She gained his trust and manipulated him to sending compromising pictures. Once the pictures were sent, they began demanding money. Mom and dad, Grandma and Grandpa, we got to talk about this, okay? This is heavy. This is hard stuff. I get it. I wish I could put my arms around the Moore family. I know, because I've read every one of these, of the 40 people, and I can only do one or two a day. It just tears your heart out. And it is true of my team. But we can no longer deny this is happening when we've already lost more than 40 of our upstanding young people. We have to start talking about it. So this is different than other kinds of sextortion. The people, let's say Nigeria or Pakistan, Ivory Coast, they're all over. And by the way, one of the things I really want to hammer home to you is we're just getting started. Think of the third world countries that have not yet got 5G high-speed internet. This is happening, and this is what my ebook is all about, called Digital Warfare. Our kids on the front line. This is happening because for the first time in all of history, our entire world is connected by internet. I kind of think about it as cars. The first time when they invented cars and everybody's all excited, but then it started getting really ugly when they were used inappropriately. Technology is not good or bad. This is the generation of kids that are going to need to live in a globally connected world with all the bad people and all the good people. But nobody, as far as I can tell, in internet safety or even moms and dad are defining what that means. If it is a globally connected world, that puts millions of people online. There are now more than 5 billion people online. So let's just say only 10% of them. Let's say 1% of them. That's millions of people online that want to get money from an American kid. And they are going to do it in a ruthless manner that none of us are prepared to understand until we stop in our tracks and recognize that this is, in fact, really happening. And if we're going to put our kids in that environment, we owe it to them to educate ourselves and then sit down and educate them. It is not enough to say, you be careful on that thing now, and wag your finger and point and go, what are you doing? This is a very important educational conversation that ought to be ongoing in every family that hands a child a device. And we are doing this to prepubescent children. How much cognitive reasoning do they have? How much do they understand about pedophilia and adult sex, and why somebody around the world would want their nude photo? We have to come to an understanding that never again should anyone ever put a nude online. But we are far past that stage and just now having this conversation, because guess what? Now we have deep fakes. Now we don't even have to put a nude online. Anybody can grab our photo and turn it into a sexual and nude image and start blackmailing our children. And that is another reason that if you have a child online, they need to understand that it is a globally connected universe and that they are going on there, especially because we got this whole globally connected universe at the same time we experience a technological transformation. Things like mass audience live streaming. Mom and dad, you're on Facebook. You have 45 friends, okay? You know them, kind of, okay? Most of them. But still, your child's on TikTok and they're on Instagram. All a pedophile has to do is go to certain categories and sign up and wait. Hashtag hot cam girls. And you are more likely to seduce a girl that is on hashtag hot cam girls than if they're on hashtag I'm going to be a virgin till I'm 45. Okay, I'll make that up on the spur of the moment. You get my point, okay? It is mass audience live streaming. If your child is on TikTok, and they have 1 million followers, what percentage of them are pedophiles? I guarantee you at least 1%. That is 10,000 people that can contact your child in the middle of the night if they're sleeping with their phone and say, hey, baby, you're hot. I'm an agent. I'm going to make you famous. And it goes that quickly. The kids in the third world countries that are doing this are being trafficked themselves, quite frankly. The cartels take these kids and say, you want to pick up $1 today? You can go online and play video games, but you have to bring in X number of nude photos. The minute the nude photo goes in from an unsuspecting young man or a young girl, but mostly young men, then what happens is it goes right over to the financial people who are absolutely brutal. One of these kids that took their own life was an amazing young man. They all were, but this is Tevin Tobler I was thinking of. He received 1,000 texts in a 24-hour period once that photo was sent. You wonder why your child won't be able to stand against it? Neither can you, by the way. Nothing is preparing our children to what's about to happen if they send that photo. That's got to stop. We have to stop and have that conversation right now. I saw some new statistics today coming out from Thorne, and I love Thorne. They have a hell of a lot more money than I have, by the way, and I'm very, very proud for how they use it, and I appreciate it because they educate a lot of us other advocates. They said that 1 in 6 sextortion victims were under the age of 12 years old. How much do you know about sextortion and blackmail and the global internet if you're only 9 or 10? But you like to please people, and that's what makes it so bad. 1 in 8 victims were extorted by a deep fake, meaning somebody got a hold of it and modified the image and then started blackmailing. Now, the kid will run around going, that's not me, mom, that's not me, and they go to school, that's not me. Nobody cares right now because we haven't done enough education. In fact, I contend that this is a school issue. That does not make me popular, by the way, but I'm not giving up on it. Think about this. Most of the victims of sextortion are school-aged children, and many times it's happening on campus. And now it's happening from cartels and terrorist groups. 764 is one of them that reaches our kids and gets our kids to cut numbers and harm little animals. And they're reaching our kids while they're on the school ground. But how do you report this? Where does a school kid go and get immediate intervention so they don't interfere or take their own life? Where can they go to get immediate help? Going, whoop, I got caught. It happened to me. Where is all this conversation? It ought to be taking place nightly on the news. This is equivalent to what is going on in global warfare. And because anybody around the world, terrorist groups, geopolitical enemies of the United States, and literally out and out crooks and criminals from the outer Nigeria can reach our child. We need to understand that. And they have learned that the best way to make a lot of money is to blackmail US kids, UK kids, Australia kids, French kids, people with money. So the minute you hand your child a device, you are putting them on the front line of global warfare. And we need to get that kid ready or not be there at all. 44% of victims reported the imagery used to extort them was acquired without their consent, meaning it's probably taken off the line and being altered. So this is going to be the way of life. What are we doing in schools where a kid can get safe haven, where a kid can go to a principal or a teacher or a counselor, or maybe you have some app that connects them directly to law enforcement so they can say, don't kill yourself, don't do anything crazy. Right now, I'm going to come alongside you, show me everything that you have, and let me work with you on it. And let me get you some support and counseling. This is so important to do this for, number one, so that the law enforcement has accurate numbers, because we believe only a small percentage of these cases are being reported. Number two, it also can give the family some immediate interaction and interception. I mean, if they're getting kids to take their own lives or to cut themselves, this is akin to active shooter on a school campus. Now, I know what I'm saying because schools are going, I'm not going to be responsible for this. And what do I do? And how do I keep this kid safe? And we don't have time for all this intervention. Let me in on another little secret here. In 2023, the FBI, I got that wrong, National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, took 36 million potential reports of child exploitation. Okay, 84% of those resolved offline. So, what organization in the world is big enough to handle this number of reports? That is over 100,000 a day. I don't know anybody on earth, but how did it get so big without any of us coming up with some real solutions to take care of this? How did this happen? I believe we have to intervene, and we have to be able to set up intervention for our kids, but we also need to get the parents up to date. We are just getting started. As third world countries come online and learn that they can access American dollars by violating our children and never leaving home, this will be the greatest crime in the world, and it also will be this greatest kind of terrorism in the world as our children become blackmailed. And it is time to do something about it. I also have an idea that I'm starting to try to get push upstairs, and it's real hard to be at the bottom and push it all the way to the top. And I'm going to go for it here. And if any of you know President Trump or Melania Trump or want to intervene for me, you call me. Okay, you can text me, or excuse me, email me at opal at millionkids.org. But I believe that we need to get tech companies to put a flashing sign on any communication that is originating out of the country. If literally 82% of these 30 million cases, 30 plus million cases originated offshore, then we need to have a flashing light on any communication originating out of the country. It says offshore, offshore, offshore. So our kid will look at it and know that it is not the 14-year-old down the street. It says offshore. They're coming in from a foreign country. I think we need it for grandma and grandpa because there are romance scams that are out there. Okay. Our old people are lonely and they're thinking they're falling in love with somebody on an oil well, and they're sending them $10,000 of their life savings, or in many cases, a whole heck of a lot more. If it says offshore, 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 maybe it'll give them that uncomfortable feeling in their gut. So how do we get tech companies to do that? So here's the deal. My heart goes out to the Moore family. This young man, you don't deserve what happened to you, and you and I both know that it can't be changed at this point. But I want to say, never again. Million Kids is committed to keeping kids safe from predators. And the reason we all get up, all 8 of us get up every morning, is to say never again should another young person, another adult, another family pay the price for financial sextortion. But we also feel like that we're in a race for our lives, because I cannot believe that there were literally 36 million reports. And that's only, by the way, with only 15% of the service providers reporting. 36 million in 2023. How did we get this far without this being the most important crime in the world? If we cannot protect this generation of young people, we, mom and dad, are the people who are making the decision to hand that child a phone. And without being educated ourselves, without understanding the real phenomena, without roaming around with this naive belief, now you be careful on that thing. And he or she is a very smart kid, and I don't think they're at danger. I think it'll be okay, and I'm going to check it. That's all good and dandy, but it doesn't work. Those days are long gone. And I know you mean well, but I hope from this podcast, you make up your mind that you are going to get connected to the next generation of young people that are going online. And you are going to learn how this works, and you're going to help us take on this fight. If you're willing to do that, my name is Opal, OPAL, Opal Singleton. I'm out of Riverside, California. We work across the nation, and we run a small nonprofit. We are very accountable with our funding. We're very, very blessed to have some excellent people behind us that believe in our work, and we thank you for all of you that are doing that. But we got to take this on, and we've got to move harder, faster, and get more results. There are solutions to this, And it is time to get our head out of the sand and say, the world is a different place. And technology isn't good or bad, but if we're going to put our kids on a globally connected device, we need a completely different kind of educational system and a completely different kind of reporting system. And we need people just like yourself that are willing to come to terms and take this on. If you want to donate to help our cause, go to millionkids.org, MILLION, millionkids.org, and hit that donate button, and I'd appreciate it. Or anything else that you want to do, send a check, contact me, we'll talk about it. I am madly working on this book. I hope you will buy the book when it comes out. It'll be called Digital Warfare, Our Kids on the Front Line. I am asking you to please get educated and do what we can to take this on. My name is Opal Singleton, the organization's Million Kids, and I will see you next time on this podcast. Give your family a big hug. Let them know how proud you are of them, how much you love them. Look at your spouse and say, you mean everything to me. I'll see you next time on this podcast.